The hot wind blew across the red sand. Daiho walked slowly, dragging his metal detector behind him. The twin suns burned bright in the sky. He was sweating. His clothes stuck to his skin. The desert was huge and empty. People called it the Bone Desert because so many soldiers died here during the war. 23 years had passed since the war ended. Daiho was only 7 years old when it happened. He barely remembered Earth. Green grass, tall trees, blue water. Now he lived on this dry planet called Kepler 442b. His mother died during the evacuation. He lost her hand in the crowd. The memory still hurt. Now Daiho was 30 years old. He made money by finding old war junk in the desert. Broken guns, pieces of ships, anything metal. He sold them to traders in the settlement. It was a hard life, but it was his life. The metal detector made a loud beeping sound. Not a weak beep like usual. This was strong. Daiho felt his heart beat faster. He dropped to his knees and started digging with his hands. Sand flew everywhere. His fingers hurt, but he kept digging. 5 minutes later, he found it. A helmet old and covered in rust. But this was not alien technology. This was human. Daiho brushed away more sand. His hands were shaking. On the side, he could read words. UEF Marine Corps, Titan Division. Daiho stopped breathing for a second. The Titans. Everyone knew the stories. Giant soldiers in powered armor. The best fighters humanity ever had. They fought when nobody else could. They held the line against the aliens. Then they died. All of them died here on this planet. Most people thought the stories were lies. Just propaganda to make people feel better about losing the war. But Daiho was holding proof in his hands. A real Titan helmet. He carried it back to his workshop in New Busan settlement. The workshop was small and dirty. Tools everywhere. Old junk piled in corners. But it was home. Daiho put the helmet on his work table under a bright lamp. He started cleaning it carefully. The rust came off easier than he expected. Under the rust was gray metal. Titanium alloy. Very strong. Very expensive. The helmet had burn marks all over it. Blast damage. Plasma burns. This helmet survived a real battle. As he cleaned the inside, his finger touched something smooth. A data port. Daiho's heart jumped. If there was working technology inside, he could sell it for a lot of money. Maybe enough to buy a real house instead of this shack. He grabbed his old tablet and connected a cable to the helmet. The screen flickered, static, white noise. Then words appeared. Real words. Initializing core systems. Running diagnostics. Tactical neural interface online. Daiho jumped back. His chair fell over with a crash. He stared at the helmet. Blue lights were turning on inside it. Dim at first, then brighter. The helmet was alive. After 23 years buried in sand, it was still working. A voice came from the helmet. It sounded like a robot, but also somehow human. The voice said, "Biosign detection active. Operator scan initiated. Scanning now." Daiho whispered, "Hello?" He felt stupid talking to a helmet. But the helmet turned its sensors toward him. They moved like eyes looking at him. There was a long silence. Then the voice spoke again. It sounded surprised. Voice pattern analyzed. Genetic markers detected. "You sound like my captain." Daiho felt dizzy. "What did you say?" The helmet said, "Captain Lee Minho, 3rd Titan Battalion, 7th Company, killed in action. Kepler 442b, Sector 12. Date August 17, 2398. Your voice is 87% similar to his. Your genetic markers suggest family connection. Are you his descendant?" The room was spinning. Lee Minho, that was his grandfather's name. The grandfather who died before Daiho was born. The grandfather whose records were lost when Earth fell. Nobody talked about him. There were no pictures. Just a name that his mother mentioned once before she died. The voice continued. "I am Aegis 7, Combat Support Artificial Intelligence, assigned to Captain Lee. I have been dormant for 23 years, 4 months, and 11 days. It is good to hear a familiar voice again, even if it is not his." Daiho sat down on the floor. His legs felt weak. An AI, a real military AI from the war, and it knew his grandfather. "Tell me about him," Daiho said quietly. "Tell me about Captain Lee." Aegis 7 began to talk. For 3 hours, Daiho sat and listened. The AI's memory was damaged. Parts were missing. But what remained told a story that Daiho had never heard before. The real story of the war. The aliens were called the Vraks. Big creatures covered in armor. Very strong, very fast. Much better than humans in every way. Their technology was hundreds of years ahead. They should have crushed humanity easily. But something went wrong. The Vraks expected humans to surrender when the war turned bad. That's what any logical species would do. When you cannot win, you give up. You make peace. You survive. Humans did not do that. They kept fighting. Even when their ships were destroyed. Even when their planets burned. Even when death was certain. They fought with broken weapons and wounded bodies. They fought until they died. And even then, they did not stop. Aegis 7 said, "The Vraks called humans the relentless ones. In their language, there is no word for what you do. You refuse to surrender when logic says you should. Your bodies break, but you keep moving." Captain Lee once fought for 47 hours with broken bones. His spine was shattered. 3 limbs were broken. He was losing blood, but he stayed conscious. He kept giving orders. He kept fighting. "That's crazy," Deho said. "No," Aegis 7 replied. "That is human. The Vraks are superior in every biological way, but they lack what you possess." The irrational refusal to accept defeat. This terrified them more than any weapon. Deho looked at his rough hands. He never thought of himself as special. He was just a scavenger, poor, forgotten, living day to day in a dying settlement. "Why are you telling me this?" Deho asked. "Because the war is not over," Aegis 7 said. Its voice was serious. "My sensors detect Vraks' energy signatures. They are here on this world searching." Deho felt cold. Searching for what? The same thing they searched for when they destroyed Earth, the last of humanity. They want to finish what they started. The peace treaty was a lie. "But that's impossible," Deho said. "Everyone knows the war ended. We have peace." No. Captain Lee knew the truth. All the Titans knew. That is why they made their last stand here. They were not just protecting the evacuation ships. They were hiding something. Something the Vraks would do anything to possess or destroy. Deho leaned closer. "What did they hide?" "The arsenal," Aegis 7 whispered. "Humanity's final weapon. The one thing that could change the war. Captain Lee died protecting its location. I am the only one who knows where it is." Deho stood up fast. "Then we have to find it." "Yes," Aegis 7 agreed, "before the Vraks do. But I must warn you. Once we begin, there is no going back. You will face terrible danger. You may die like your grandfather died." Deho picked up the helmet. It was heavy in his hands. For 23 years, he lived by picking through the war's remains. Maybe it was time to honor those who died. Maybe it was time to finish what his grandfather started. "I guess," Deho said slowly. "I better sound like my captain then." He put the helmet on his head. It sealed around his skull with a hissing sound. Systems started turning on. His vision filled with glowing displays and information. Numbers, maps, data. For the first time in 23 years, Aegis 7 had a human operator again. "Welcome aboard, Deho," the AI said warmly. "Let us go save humanity." The first 3 days were terrible. Deho thought wearing the helmet would make him strong like the old Titan soldiers. He was wrong. Instead, he spent most of the first day vomiting. The helmet connected to his brain. It sent signals through his nerves. His body did not know how to handle it. He fell down many times. He walked into walls. He could not control his own legs. Aegis 7 said, "Your brain is adapting well." Captain Lee needed 2 weeks to learn basic control. "You are learning in days." "Does not feel good," Deho groaned. His head hurt badly. The helmet showed too much information. Threat levels, wind speed, temperature, distance measurements, 100 other things. His brain could not process it all. But slowly things got better. His brain began to understand the helmet. By day 3, he could walk normally. By the end of the first week, he moved better than ever before. The helmet predicted what he wanted to do. It helped guide his movements. He felt fast and smooth and powerful. But Deho knew he could not find the arsenal alone. He needed help. He needed people who could fight. People who knew about war. That meant going into New Busan settlement and finding people crazy enough to believe his story. He found the first person in a bar called The Last Drop. It was a dirty place. Broken chairs, stained tables. People went there to forget their problems. In the corner sat a woman named Hyejin. She was alone. She had a glass of cheap whiskey. She was cleaning a plasma rifle. The gun looked old and damaged, but well maintained. Aegis 7 spoke in Deho's head. She was militia. Fought in the war. Honorable discharge. Severe trauma. Be careful. Daeho walked over and sat down across from her. Hyejin did not look up, but her finger moved closer to the rifle trigger. She knew he was there. I am not here to cause trouble, Daeho said carefully. Then you are in the wrong bar. Hyejin's voice was flat, empty. She finally looked up. Her eyes were hollow, dead inside. This was someone who saw too much death. I need someone who knows combat, someone who fought the Vraks. Now Hyejin was paying attention. She put down her glass slowly. The war is over, scavenger. Go home. No, it is not over. Daeho leaned forward. He spoke quietly. The Vraks are here, on this world. I know where humanity hid something that can stop them. Hyejin stared at him for a long time. Then she laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. You are insane, Aegis 7 said in his head. Show her. Daeho took off the helmet. He put it on the table between them. Hyejin's eyes went very wide. She saw the Titan Division symbol.
No way, she whispered.
That is impossible. All the Titan equipment was destroyed. Not all of it, Aegis 7 said from the helmet's speakers. I need help completing my final mission. Will you help us, Sergeant Hyejin? Hyejin's hand shook as she reached toward the helmet. Then she pulled back like it burned her. I swore I would never fight again. My entire squad died. Every single one. I watched them die. Then make their deaths mean something, Daeho said quietly. Help me finish what they died for. They found the second person easier. His name was Junho. He was a mechanic. He fixed machines in the industrial district. He was young, only 25 years old. But he was very smart with technology. Aegis 7 found him by scanning the settlement's computer networks. Junho Kim, Aegis 7 reported. Genius engineer. He designed new power systems that improved generators by 37%. But he wastes his talent repairing moisture machines. They found Junho working on a broken reactor. His arms were inside the machine up to his elbows. He was cursing at the broken parts. When Daeho explained what they needed, Junho's eyes lit up with excitement. You want me to help activate old military technology that might save humanity? Junho wiped his dirty hands on his coveralls. When do we leave? They were back in Daeho's workshop making plans. They were looking at maps, deciding what equipment to bring. Then Aegis 7 suddenly went quiet. All its systems were focusing on something. What is wrong? Daeho asked. He could feel the AI's worry through their connection. Vrak's energy signature, close, very close. The helmet showed red warnings. They are scanning the settlement. They are searching for something. Searching for the arsenal? Hyejin asked. Her hand was already on her rifle. No, Aegis 7 said. They are searching for me. They know I survived. They want my memory before I can lead anyone to the arsenal. The lights flickered. Outside, people started screaming. Daeho ran to the window. What he saw made his blood freeze. 3 huge shapes were coming down from the night sky. Their hulls shimmered with strange light. Stealth fields were failing. Each ship was as big as a city block. They had many weapons. Enough weapons to destroy the entire settlement in seconds. Scout frigates Aegis 7 identified. Lightly armed for Vrak's ships. But more than enough to eliminate this settlement. They are deploying ground forces now. We need to run, Junho said. His voice was shaking with fear. No, Hyejin said coldly. She was checking her rifle. We need to fight. Both correct, Aegis 7 said. Hyejin and I will delay them. Buy time for civilians to evacuate. Junho and Daeho will go to the arsenal coordinates immediately. If we fall, you must reach it before the Vraks do. I am not leaving you, Daeho said, but Aegis 7 was already downloading critical data to a backup drive. Junho connected it quickly. You must, Aegis 7 said firmly. This is bigger than us. Bigger than this settlement. If the Vraks reach the arsenal first, humanity dies. All of it, every colony, every ship, every last human in the galaxy. You cannot let that happen. Through the window, Daeho saw the first Vraks warriors coming out of the ships. They were tall, like insects but covered in biomechanical armor. They moved like hunting animals. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Data transfer complete, Junho said. He held the drive like it was precious gold. I have got it. Hyejin grabbed Daeho's shoulder hard. She forced him to look at her. I have been dead for 23 years. Just walking around out of habit. Let me make my life mean something. Let me buy you time to finish this. Your grandfather would be proud of you, Aegis 7 said softly. Now go, run, do not look back. The first plasma bolt started raining down on New Busan. Buildings exploded. Fires started. People were running and screaming. Daeho and Junho ran into the desert night. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of battle. Hyejin and Aegis 7 were making their stand against an army, buying precious minutes with their lives. Daeho ran. Tears were streaming down his face. He held the helmet against his chest. It felt like carrying the weight of the entire human race. Behind him, New Busan was burning. The sky was full of fire and light, but he did not look back. He ran into the darkness, and he prayed that Hyejin's sacrifice would not be in vain. They traveled for 3 days through the Bone Desert. They followed coordinates that Aegis 7 burned into the backup drive before the battle. Behind them, the glow of burning New Busan faded into the distance. The fire in the sky got smaller and smaller. Soon it was gone. Now there was no hope of rescue. No reinforcements coming. They were alone. Just 2 humans, a damaged AI and a data drive, and the weight of extinction on their shoulders. On the second night, they huddled around a small heat generator. The desert was burning hot during the day, but at night it became freezing cold. Yunyo stared into the darkness. He asked quietly, "Do you think they made it?"
Hyejin and Aegis?
Daeho remembered the plasma fire, the screaming, the sounds of dying. He said, "I do not know, but we have to believe they bought us enough time." "Tell me about your grandfather," Junho said suddenly. "Captain Lee, what was he like?" "I never met him. He died before I was born." Daeho pulled the helmet closer for warmth, but Aegis told me stories. He was relentless. That was the word the AI kept using. He never knew when to quit, even when quitting was the smart choice. "Sounds familiar," Junho said with a tired smile. He pointed at their situation. 2 untrained civilians walking through a wasteland, looking for a weapon that might not exist, chased by aliens who wanted them dead. It was crazy, but they were doing it anyway. "Yeah," Daeho agreed. "I guess it runs in the family." They found it at dawn on the 3rd day. A massive blast door built into a cliff face. The camouflage was so good they would have walked past it. But the helmet's sensors detected it. Old military technology still working after all these years. Daeho read the faded words above the door. "Titan Station Omega, authorized personnel only, lethal force authorized." "Cheerful," Junho muttered. He was already pulling out his tools. He started working on the door's control panel. It was very old, rusted and damaged. But Junho was good with machines. It took him 2 hours to crack the security system. When the door finally opened, it made a loud groaning sound. It revealed a dark tunnel going down into the earth. Both of them stopped and stared. Neither wanted to go first. "Last chance to turn back," Daeho said. But he knew neither of them would. After coming all this way? Not a chance. Junho turned on his headlamp. He stepped into the darkness. "Besides, I want to see what scared the Vrak so badly." The tunnel went on forever. It sloped down and down. Emergency lights flickered on as they passed. Some ancient reactor was still running, still providing power after 23 years. The walls had blast marks. Plasma burns. Evidence of a desperate fight. Bodies lined the corridor. Humans and Vraks dead for over 2 decades. The dry, cool air preserved them. Daeho tried not to look at their faces, tried not to think about their final moments, the terror they must have felt. "They died protecting something down here," Junho whispered. His voice echoed in the tunnel. Both sides knew how important this was. The tunnel opened into a huge underground cavern. Daeho stopped breathing. Before them was a city, an entire military complex carved into the rock. Streets and buildings, all pristine despite decades of abandonment. Lights were turning on, old systems waking up. But what stood at the cavern's center made both of them freeze in shock. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands, row after row of powered armor suits, each one 10 feet tall, covered in weapons, the legendary Titan suits. Everyone thought they were lost forever. But here they were, an entire army worth of equipment. "By all the stars," Junho breathed. "This is the arsenal? An entire army of Titan armor?" "Not just armor," a familiar voice said. Both of them spun around. Hyejin was emerging from the shadows. She was battered and bleeding. Her clothes were torn, but she was alive. Behind her, Aegis 7's helmet was strapped to her belt, its systems still active, its lights still glowing. "You are alive." Daeho rushed forward. He felt overwhelming relief. Barely. Hyejin winced when she moved. Aegis pulled off a neat trick. It uploaded itself to my combat rig processor before the Vrax could capture it. We fought a running battle all the way here, but we made it. She pointed at the suits, and now I understand why the Vrax were so desperate to stop us. I do not understand, Junho said. He walked between the towering suits. This is impressive, but surely not enough to threaten the entire Vrax empire. Show them, Aegis 7 said through Hyejin's equipment. Hyejin led them to a central command station. She activated a holographic display. Images appeared, battle footage from the war. It showed Titan soldiers fighting. But something was wrong. The footage showed soldiers taking massive damage, limbs blown off, organs destroyed, wounds that should kill instantly. But the soldiers kept fighting, and then impossibly they healed. Regeneration? Junho's eyes went wide. That is not possible. The human body cannot do that. The suits are not just armor, Aegis 7 explained. They are symbiotic systems. They rewrite the wearer's biology at the cellular level. They grant enhanced strength, speed, and reflexes. They accelerate healing to superhuman levels. And most terrifying for the Vrax, they suppress pain, fear, and the survival instinct itself. We turned ourselves into weapons, Hyejin said quietly. Perfect soldiers who could not be stopped by injury or fear or death. That is what terrified the Vrax, not our technology, but our willingness to sacrifice our own humanity to survive. Daeho stared at the suits. He finally understood. That is why they wanted the arsenal destroyed. Because if humans could make more of these, if we could all become Titans, we would be unstoppable, Aegis 7 finished. An entire species of warriors who refused to die. The Vrax would have to destroy humanity completely, or face eventual defeat by an enemy that will not quit. So what do we do? Junho asked. We cannot use these. If we deploy them, we prove the Vrax right. We prove that humanity is too dangerous to exist. No, Daeho said slowly. An idea was forming. We use them to force a real peace. Not the lie they gave us, an actual treaty. We show the Vrax that humanity can fight back, can win even, but we choose peace instead. We prove that our strength comes from choosing to be better, not from being monsters, ambitious, Aegis 7 observed. But there is a problem. The Vrax have sent a fleet to this world. A real fleet. Not the scouts we faced. They will destroy this entire planet to prevent the arsenal from falling into human hands. They will arrive in less than 48 hours. Hyejin checked her rifle. A grim smile crossed her face. Then I guess we better suit up and show them what humanity does best. Refusing to accept the inevitable. The suits did not accept them at first. They rejected their new operators. Daeho stood before the armor that belonged to his grandfather, Captain Lee's personal Titan suit. The system scanned him. It checked his genetics, his neural patterns, his very essence. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then warning sounds blared throughout the facility. A loud voice announced, "Unauthorized user detected. Initiating security protocols." "Aegis!" Daeho shouted. The suit's weapons were powering up, targeting him, about to kill him. Override code Minho Alpha 77. Aegis 7's voice rang through the facility speakers. Authorization Titan Command. Captain Lee Minho. Posthumous transfer of command authority to genetic descendant. The weapons powered down. The armor's chest plate opened with a hissing sound. The voice said, "Genetic match confirmed. Authorization accepted. Welcome, Captain Lee Daeho." Daeho's hands were shaking as he stepped into the suit. It closed around him like a second skin. Neural interfaces pierced into his spine, into his brain, into his nervous system. The pain was terrible. Fire burned through every nerve. But then it stopped. It was replaced by a feeling of absolute power. He could feel everything. The suit's fusion reactor humming in his chest like a second heart. The targeting systems locked onto every object in the facility. The tactical network connecting him to Aegis 7 and the facility systems. It was overwhelming, intoxicating, terrifying all at once. "How do you feel?" Hyejin asked. She had already put on her own suit, one that belonged to a sergeant named Park Minseo. The armor transformed her from a broken veteran into something fierce and terrible. "Like I could fight the entire Vrax Empire alone," Daeho admitted. "Good," Hyejin said. "Because in 30 hours you are going to have to." Junho could not wear a Titan suit. He lacked the right genes. His brain was not compatible. But he found something almost as valuable. The facility's master control systems. Within hours, the young engineer brought the entire arsenal's defenses online. Automated turrets, shield generators, weapons that slept for 2 decades suddenly roaring to life. I have good news and bad news, Junho reported from the command center. Good news. This facility has enough firepower to fight a small fleet. Bad news, the Vraks are not bringing a small fleet. A holographic display appeared. It showed the approaching armada. 50 capital ships, hundreds of support vessels, thousands of fighters and dropships. It was an extinction force, designed to sterilize an entire world. We cannot win, Aegis 7 stated. Even with the arsenal's full capabilities, we lack the numbers to stop an assault of this size. Then we do not try to win, Deho said. His grandfather's tactical instincts were flowing through the neural link. We show them they cannot beat us. We hold long enough to make them understand. Destroying this planet will cost them more than they are willing to pay. The Vraks fleet arrived exactly on schedule. Their ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation above the desert. They did not waste time with communication. No demands. Orbital bombardment began immediately. Plasma lances carved molten furrows across the planet's surface. The ground shook. Mountains melted. But the arsenal's shields held. Ancient human technology, built by people who understood that sometimes the only difference between victory and defeat was enduring one more second of punishment. They are launching drop pods, Aegis 7 reported. Ground assault. They want to take the facility intact if possible. Then let us give them a proper welcome, Hyejin growled. Her suit's weapons came alive. Deho led the way to the surface. 2 Titans against an army. The odds were absurd. The situation was hopeless. Yet as they emerged into the burning daylight, he felt no fear. The suit would not let him. All he felt was purpose, clarity, and the absolute conviction that he would make the enemy pay for every inch of ground. The first wave of Vraks warriors hit them like a tsunami. Deho's targeting systems painted hundreds of hostiles. His weapons responded with inhuman precision. Plasma cannons, railguns, micromissiles. Every weapon the Titans designed to kill the unkillable. The battle became a blur. Deho moved faster than thought, his body enhanced by the suit. His mind accelerated by Aegis 7's tactical algorithms. He got hit many times. Plasma bolts seared through armor. Kinetic rounds shattered bones. But the pain was distant, irrelevant. The suit's regeneration systems were already healing him, knitting flesh and bone back together even as he fought. He understood now why the Vraks were so terrified, not because humans were stronger or smarter, but because they refused to stop, refused to surrender, refused to acknowledge defeat even when defeat was inevitable. It was insanity. Beautiful, terrible insanity. They're pulling back, Hyejin reported. Her voice was thick with exhaustion. Her suit was smoking. Half its systems were offline, but she was still standing, still fighting. Deho checked his tactical display. The Vraks ground forces had broken. They were retreating to their dropships. Bodies littered the desert for a mile in every direction. Alien corpses, thankfully no human ones. They will return, Aegis 7 said. With heavier forces. They are learning our capabilities. Adapting their tactics. Good, Deho said. He watched the enemy ships regroup in orbit. Let them learn. Let them understand what it means to fight humans, and then maybe they will decide peace is better than this. That night, as they repaired their suits and prepared for the next assault, Junho made a discovery in the facility's communication systems. There is a transmitter here, he said excitedly. Military grade? Powerful enough to reach other star systems. We could call for help. There is no help, Hyejin said bitterly. The colonies are scattered, barely surviving. They cannot send military aid? No, Deho said slowly. An idea was forming. But we can send them something better. We can send them proof. He had Junho broadcast everything. Battle footage, sensor logs, the truth about the arsenal and the Vraks fleet that came to destroy it. He sent it to every human colony, every refugee ship, every scattered remnant of humanity still clinging to survival in the dark. And with it he sent a message. His own words, speaking into the void. This is Captain Lee Deho of the Titan Division. The war never ended. The peace was a lie, but we are still here. We are still fighting. And we will never surrender. If you receive this message, know that humanity endures. Know that we can win. And know that your ancestors died buying you the chance to survive. Do not waste it. Stand up, fight back. Show the galaxy what it means to be human. The transmission went out across the void, a message in a bottle cast into the cosmic ocean. Whether anyone would receive it, whether anyone would answer, Deho did not know. But he did what his grandfather would have done. He made sure humanity knew it still had a fighting chance. The Vraks attacked again at dawn, and this time, they brought everything they had. The second assault was apocalyptic. The end of everything. The Vraks came with their full might, heavy armor, air support, orbital bombardment that shook the facility's shields to their breaking point. Wave after wave of warriors, each one more determined than the last, all converging on the two titans who stood between them and the arsenal. Deho fought like a man possessed. His grandfather's instincts guided him through the chaos. His suit was failing, systems shutting down one by one, but still he pushed forward. Still he refused to yield. The word echoed in his mind. Relentless. 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 Beside him, Hyejin had passed the point where a normal human would have fallen. Her suit was more scars than metal, half its weapons destroyed, but she kept fighting with a fury that made even the Vraks hesitate. She was alive again, truly alive for the first time in 23 years. Aegis, Deho gasped. His voice was raw. How long? 47 hours since the first attack, the AI reported. You have exceeded all projections. Captain Lee held for 47 hours during the First War. You have matched his record. Then let us break it, Deho snarled. He raised his weapons for another charge. But then something changed. The Vraks' assault faltered. Their warriors pulled back in confusion. Deho's tactical display lit up with new contacts. Dozens of them. Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel around the planet. Human ships. Hundreds of them. Colony vessels. Merchant freighters. Even a few ancient military ships that should not be capable of flight. Every human within 10 light years. Answering the call. A voice crackled over the communication channel. This is Captain Sujin of the colony ship New Sol. We received your transmission, Captain Lee. Sorry we are late to the party. New Sol, you are a beautiful sight, Deho replied. His voice was breaking with emotion. Tears ran down his face inside the helmet. We brought friends, Sujin said. Deho could hear the grim satisfaction in her voice. Every colony that could spare ships. Every refugee who could hold a weapon. The Vraks wanted to finish what they started. Let us show them why that was a mistake. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations, not because humanity won. The fight was still desperate, still brutal, still balanced on a knife edge, but because humanity refused to lose. Ship after ship threw themselves at the Vraks' fleet. Weapons that should have been scrap. Pilots with more courage than training. Civilians who picked up rifles and said enough. No more running. No more hiding. They fought with everything they had. And when they had nothing left, they fought with their bare hands. And slowly, impossibly, the Vraks began to break. Not because humans were winning, but because the Vraks finally understood what they were facing. An enemy that would never stop, never surrender, never accept extinction. An enemy that would fight across 1,000 worlds, across 1,000,000 years if necessary, until either humanity stood triumphant or the universe itself ended. The Vraks' fleet commander opened a channel. The translator converted its words to human language. The words were simple, heavy with defeat and grudging respect. Enough, we will withdraw. We will negotiate. The negotiations took months. The Vraks wanted guarantees that humanity would never use the Titan technology offensively. Humanity wanted reparations, territory, and most importantly, the truth about what really happened during the First War. No more lies, no more hidden agendas. In the end, both sides got what they needed, a peace treaty built on truth rather than lies, on mutual respect rather than fear. It was not perfect, but it was real. Deho stood in the arsenal one last time. His Titan suit was powered down but still responding to his presence. Around him, engineers from across human space worked to catalog the facility, to understand the technology that nearly brought extinction, but instead saved them. What will you do now? Aegis 7 asked. The AI had been given a choice, deactivation or transfer to a new host. It chose to remain with Deho. Rebuild, Deho said simply. New Busan is gone, but there are other settlements, other people who need help, and someone has to make sure this never happens again. You sound like your grandfather, Aegis 7 observed. Deho smiled. I will take that as a compliment. Hyejin found him there. Her own suit was deactivated. The veteran looked different now. Not broken anymore, tempered. Like steel that went through the forge and emerged stronger. Junho has been elected governor of the new settlement they are building, she reported. The kid has a good head on his shoulders. He says he wants you as head of security. Me? I am just a scavenger. You are a titan, Hyejin corrected. And more importantly, you are the man who reminded humanity what it means to fight for what matters. We could use someone like that. 10 years passed. Captain Lee Deho stood on the observation deck of Titan Station Alpha. He watched ships come and go from the busy spaceport below. In the decade since the Battle of Kepler 442b, humanity reclaimed a dozen worlds, rebuilt its fleets, forged a lasting peace with the Vrax Empire. The arsenal had been secured, its secrets studied but never deployed. The Titan suits remained in their racks, a reminder of what humanity could become if pushed too far, and a symbol of what they chose not to be. Incoming message from Earth, Aegis 7 announced. After all these years, the AI was still with him, still guiding him. The reconstruction is complete. They are ready to officially reopen the planetary government. Earth, humanity's homeworld, once thought lost forever, now healing under human hands. It took 10 years of effort. But they did it. They brought their world back from the dead. Captain Lee, a young cadet, approached. She snapped to attention. Sir, the new recruits are ready for inspection. Deho nodded. He followed the cadet to the training deck. 20 young men and women stood at attention, their eyes bright with determination. The next generation of humanity's defenders, not titans, but soldiers trained to protect without losing their humanity in the process. At ease, Deho said. He studied their faces. You have all passed your training. You have all proven yourselves capable. But before you receive your assignments, I want to tell you a story about a man who found a rusted helmet in the sand, and how it changed everything. He told them about the war, about the sacrifice, about the moment when humanity stood on the brink and chose to keep fighting. Not because victory was certain, but because surrender was unthinkable. That is what it means to be human, he concluded. Not that we are stronger or smarter than other species, but that we refuse to accept defeat. We refuse to give up on each other, and most importantly, we refuse to let fear dictate our future. The recruit stood straighter, inspired by his words, ready to carry the torch forward. Remember that, Deho said. Whatever comes next, whatever challenges we face, remember that you are descendants of people who looked extinction in the eye and said, not today. Make them proud. As the recruits dispersed to their assignments, Aegis 7 spoke quietly through their neural link. Your grandfather would be proud of you, Deho. You have become the captain he knew you could be. Deho smiled. He touched the helmet that still hung at his side after all these years. I had a good teacher. Outside the window, Earth hung in the void, blue and green and alive, a testament to humanity's refusal to accept the end. And all across human space, on 100 worlds and 1,000 ships, people lived and loved and dreamed, secure in the knowledge that no matter what came next, humanity would face it together. They would endure. They would persevere. They would survive. Because that is what humans do.